We have some major draft intel to get to here on Ace Bailey and VJ Edgecombe. But before we do, let me know which side of the debate you are on. If you'd rather draft VJ Edgecombe, type VJ down in the comment section. If you'd rather draft Ace Bailey, go ahead and give me an AB. I'm Jake Chipper. Welcome in to today's 76ers Now. And on the show, Ace Bailey's draft stock is continuing to fall, and VJ Edgecombe looking like he might be a lock at pick number 3 for the Philadelphia 76ers. And we got this intel coming from ESPN draft expert Jonathan Givony, obviously very tapped in the draft community. And he released a new mock draft today, had Ace Bailey falling all the way to number 6, and had some interesting news and notes on Ace Bailey's draft stock and why he thinks Ace could fall out of the top 5. So we'll start with this from Jonathan Givony. Bailey's pre-draft workout strategy has perplexed some observers as he has yet to conduct a single known workout to date, having declined invitations from several teams within his draft range. Sources say Bailey's camp has informed interested teams. They believe he is a top 3 player in the draft, but also seeks a clear pathway to stardom, perhaps feeling comfortable that a team will trade up to get him at number 3 or at number 4 should he drop. Now, although he hasn't met with any team as of this recording on Tuesday, June 17th, Ace Bailey is scheduled to meet with the Sixers on Thursday and Friday of this week. And that is the only meeting that he has scheduled as of this point. So interesting to note that as of right now, he's only meeting with one team, and that one team is the 76ers. And I want to focus in on one thing Givony had to say here regarding Ace Bailey and his pre-draft strategy, and that's Ace saying, or at least his camp saying, he wants to go somewhere with a clear pathway to stardom. Now, how do you sort of interpret that, right? Because there's a few different ways you can take that. The way I take it is that he wants to go somewhere where he can get a lot of minutes and a lot of shots right away to quickly establish himself as the guy in the NBA on whatever team he is drafted to. You could also take it, and the way I've seen some people talk about it on Twitter, as somewhere where he can maybe have a slower integration and really take his time to develop and become that star level player. And a place like Philly, that could certainly be the case for that second option. But I don't know if Philly is the best place for him when it comes to getting all these minutes and all these shots right away, because, of course, the Sixers, if Paul George and Joel Embiid are healthy, have all these other scoring options. So it's very interesting to me when you think about that being the case, because I don't think Philly is the best place for him to come in right away and get all these minutes and get all these shots. Here's more from Givony. It's unclear if Ace plans to visit any other teams at this stage. Should the Sixers pass on him, he could very well slide to number 6 or number 7, 2 teams in Washington and New Orleans that are said to be highly intrigued with the 18-year-old talent. And both are situations in which there appear to be plenty of minutes and shots to be had. So you see Givony right there alluding to what I said, plenty of minutes and shots to be had. That, to me, is, again, why I think that's what Ace Bailey and his camp is sort of telling these teams, that he wants to be that top offensive option right away. Now, when it comes to a couple of the teams that Givony mentioned, the Wizards and the Pelicans, about trading up, we have heard a ton about New Orleans being very, very interested in moving up for Ace Bailey. And it makes sense. They're in an interesting spot with their rebuild and with their team as a whole right now. Of course, you have Zion over there. You have DeJounte Murray, who's coming off the injury. You have a couple of young wings, but they're really looking for that next direction, right? Where do they go? And Ace Bailey could be a guy that comes into New Orleans and is that true number 1 option. Of course, same thing for the Wizards, who could use really any talent right now, but we've heard a lot about the Pelicans leading up to this point, so it makes a lot of sense that they could be a potential trade down option if Philly does go that route, and if they don't love Ace Bailey, or if Ace Bailey doesn't love the Sixers as a landing spot. More from Givony. The feedback from Ace Bailey's interviews at the Draft Combine in Chicago was not all that positive, with some teams expressing concern about his lack of preparation and focus. That's certainly worrisome. NBA executives say Bailey has been polarizing in internal front office conversations because of questions about his feel for the game and lack of polish, creating a wider draft range than initially anticipated. This is where I could see Daryl Morey having a little bit of an issue with Ace Bailey, because I think it's clear to watch Ace Bailey's game and say there's certainly upside there, and you can see where he might be able to reach that star level ceiling with his scoring ability. But if he really is coming into these interviews and showing a lack of preparation and showing a lack of focus, and you combine that with the fact that, yeah, his game is a little raw and he doesn't always show that high level IQ and awareness, that's where I could see Morey not being so heavily interested in a player like Ace Bailey. Think about the guys he's drafted, right? A Tyrese Maxey, a Jared McCain, Adem Bona. These are guys that are high character guys who have a good feel for the game. Ace Bailey, not really in that kind of mold that Daryl Morey might fall in love with. Now, I will say this, they haven't met with him yet, right? They probably talked to him at the Combine, as a lot of teams probably did, but he hasn't actually flown anywhere and met with any of these teams yet and worked out privately for them. He will do that for Philly this week. So I think this visit that Ace is going to go on with the Sixers will be very, very critical in their decision and probably swing the way they decide to go. Once they get him in the building, they can see firsthand for themselves what type of person he is, what type of player he is. They can ask them all these questions that they might have. So be on the lookout. Again, this Thursday and Friday, he is meeting with them. We will know a whole lot more about the Sixers draft strategy if we hear anything at all, because they have been pretty close to the vest with a lot of their draft intel. Givony also said this in his mock draft where you had the Sixers taking VJ Edgecombe at number 3, that VJ is the, quote, leader in the clubhouse to be selected at number 3. And that's not the first time we've heard that. Jake Fisher also reported late last week that VJ was the leader in the clubhouse for the Sixers at number 3. Now, when we take a look again at this Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe debate, which side of it do you fall on, right? Like, Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, you take a look at their raw numbers. Ace looks a little bit better in terms of the scoring and the rebounding. VJ, you can see 2.1 steals per game. That's where he excels. Neither player all that efficient. To me, where do I land on this debate? I would be fine with VJ Edgecombe. I still like him a lot as a prospect and as a player. Now, he definitely needs to show that he can do more with the ball in his hands to reach a higher level upside, shooting off the dribble, getting to his spots. He has to become a better finisher, but that athleticism, something you just can't teach. At about 6'4", 6'5", he can jump out of the gym. He's gotten some comps to a young Victor Oladipo, who of course became a great player for the Indiana Pacers because he developed his on-ball skills and ability to create off the bounce. So if VJ can do that, paired with his tremendous skills defensively, he's going to be a great defender. We already know that. That's where you can see somebody who really has the upside of a true number 3 pick. But that being said, I'm still taking Ace Bailey despite all of this noise, all of the concerns about maybe him as some character concerns and some of his concerns on the floor. I still think his upside is too high to pass up on with his height, his length, and his ability to hit tough shots. I think you put him in the system, you can get him to play smarter basketball and develop some of these other aspects of his game. He just has some things you can't teach. And I like his mentality on the floor as well. Like, you can't guard me. I practice these shots. I know I can knock down these shots. So to me, Ace Bailey is still my selection at number 3. But that being said, it is concerning, all this noise that we're hearing about him and all these sort of character concerns, I guess you could call them, as we approach the draft just 8 days away. Now, at this point, you have to take that into consideration because we're not really hearing all this about anybody else at the top of the draft. It's really just Ace. So it's definitely something you have to factor in. And the biggest question to me with Ace Bailey of if he's going to work out or not, if he's going to be the pick at number 3, can you get Ace Bailey to play basketball the right way? He said he wants to go somewhere where his development, can be the main point. There's a clear plan for his development. Does that mean he wants all these shots right away, or does that mean he can fit into a team? Because with the Sixers, he's going to have to fit in. He's not going to be the guy right away. So can you get him to play more within a system and play more team-oriented basketball and use those skills that he has as a shot maker, not all the time, but allow him to pick and choose his spots and become a better off-ball player as well? That's when I think Ace Bailey can be a really, really impactful and effective player when it comes to winning basketball. But does he want to do that, or does he just want to be the number 1 option and take a bunch of shots? We'll have to see. I would think the Sixers have the infrastructure to be able to get him in there in that situation with Nick Nurse, but of course that all remains to be seen. I'll end with this. It's draft season, right? We're just over a week away from the 2025 NBA Draft. there is plenty of smoke. And we don't really know what's being reported. Is it true? Is it false? It's really hard to know when you hear all these things, not just about Ace, but about all these teams and all these prospects in general. You never know what's being reported by the player, by their camp, by agents, by teams. You just never know. So you never want to 100% buy into anything and take that as the definite truth. But I think there always is some truth to some of these reports as well. At the end of the day, it'll all be solved and it'll all be handled on the night of the NBA draft, again, just over a week away. And I think Brett Siegel makes a good point kind of in conjunction with all of this. And, we hear a lot of times about prospects falling. Could he fall here? Could this guy rise there? Brett Siegel mentioning that back in 2023, there was a lot of hype building for Brandon Miller to fall behind Scoot Henderson to surpass him in the draft leading up to it. But then Brandon Miller ended up going number 2 over Scoot Henderson. And then in 2024, there was a lot of noise about others passing Alex Sarr and him falling down the board. Well, he still ended up going number 2 anyways, despite all that noise. So again, a lot of times it is just noise. You can never take anything 100%. It's just kind of the nature of the NBA draft and teams not really wanting other teams to know what their plans are. So be honest with me. After hearing all this, some of these concerns about Ace Bailey, maybe him trying to cherry pick where he wants to go, how are you feeling about Ace Bailey as a prospect? If you're still sold on him and you still want him to be the pick, give me an I for in. If you've heard all this and you're like, man, I don't want to deal with all this, give me an O for out. You do not have Ace Bailey at the top of your draft board anymore. Before we get on out of here, I want to remind you guys about this great deal over at Fanatics on these dope 76ers Phillies combo baseball jerseys, because they're on clearance right now, 50% off from $90 to $45. It is unbelievable. It's a steal. It's a great deal, but it's not going to last forever because they're on clearance, so they are going fast. If you want to get yours, chatsports.com/76baseball. You plug in that link, it'll take you to Fanatics, and you can get yours today. Again, chatsports.com/76baseball. I'll have that in the comments and description, so you can click on it real easy there. Get yours before it is too late. Again, 50% off. You can't get a deal much better than that out there. Also, be sure to give me a follow over on X at Jake Chipper. If you're following me, you would have seen I've already talked multiple times, posted a short form video on my Twitter about this Ace Bailey situation. So anytime things like this pop up, I'm always talking about it over on X. So be sure to give me a follow. And as always, don't forget to hit that sub button.